So, hello, everyone. My name is Shahé Mankerian. As the Mentorship Program Director, alongside Aleen, who leads the Young Armenian Poets Awards, YAPA, we are excited to welcome you in this year's Emerging Writers Showcase and the YAPA Awards. We had the honor of selecting 13 talented mentees from around the world. Interest in the program continues to grow, making the selection process both exciting and challenging. Each mentee worked closely with their mentor over the summer, meeting at least 4 times to develop their craft and expand their literary potential. You'll meet many of these gifted writers today. However, calling them emerging feels almost misleading. These authors are already making significant contributions to the literary world. Keep their names in mind, follow their work, and support them however you can. Now, more than ever, Armenian literature needs new voices to carry our cultural traditions forward, especially as our homeland faces immense challenges. In a year like 2024, marked by political unrest and human rights struggles across nearly every continent, the role of writers has become even more vital. We also encourage you to support IALA by becoming a member. Your membership helps sustain programs like this mentorship initiative, supports Armenian writers, and builds a literary foundation for future generations. With your involvement, we can continue to grow and expand our impact. Finally, I'd like to thank our incredible mentors. Without their time, care, and expertise, this program wouldn't be possible. These accomplished writers, educators, and professionals generously guided their mentees through the summer, making a profound impact on their creative journeys. Mentors, we deeply appreciate your commitment and dedication. Now, let's begin the showcase. Our first mentor, Gina Semabekian, work explores transgenerational trauma, memory, and identity. Riding through grief, she seeks freedom for displaced peoples from Artsakh to Palestine. A winner of 9th Letters Creative Nonfiction Prize, her work appears in Diagram. She lectures as CSUN and lives in Los Angeles with her dog Bailey. Gina, take it away.
Thank you, Shahé. Hi, everyone. I'm very honored to be here. I'm going to introduce my mentee, Shushanik Karapetyan. Shushanik Karapetyan is difficult to define. She is a mother, an artist, a writer, and a psychotherapist. Her work is populated with transgenerational heartache and love. A grandmother who sews dresses for her granddaughter's dances and also a sack of sunflower seeds to replace the breast her daughter lost to cancer. A grandfather whose gruff rebuke at her failure to tell time makes her afraid of clocks. These images strike when we least expect them and leave us breathless, gasping, just as good writing does. What are we made of? Shushanik asks in her writing. Our memories, our traumas, yes, but also the resilience that despite the somber content of these stories springs up like water from a geyser. And yet, the narrator vacillates between the child living and the adult remembering. She reminds us, children of immigrants, what it is to be us, clumsy, loving humans with flaws and hearts that break and go on. It is my great honor to introduce Shushanik Karapetyan.
Thank you, Gina. I'm going to read from an essay titled As Far as I Can Remember. I'm going to read the first paragraph of the essay, and then I'm going to move towards the end. When I was a child, I used to love to perform. I don't as an adult. So this bit is about that child, and I thought I'd bring her in today. So she's in control now. I couldn't decide which came first, the pumpkin, the soap, the pomegranate seeds, or the record player. My earliest memories seem like precious pearls in a sea that was my mind, where I swam blindly, hunting for them, recognizing them only by touch, not knowing whether the ones I found were real or fake, and not knowing how many more there were to find, if any more. I don't remember my first day at kindergarten. I remember that it wasn't my favorite place. The only thing I enjoyed were the rehearsals and the shows.
I get back to that Zoom call.
During rehearsals, I would have my parts memorized right from the beginning, and everyone would take an example from me and Lena, my best friend. I would get annoyed if everyone didn't cooperate. I couldn't help myself but butt in. It was my duty. Tikin Allah, Vahe didn't do it right. Tikin Allah, David stuck out his tongue. Arthur, you're supposed to turn clockwise. Gevor, don't hold my hand too hard during the dance. Arsen, don't even touch me. Your hands are sweaty. One time, the role of the mother bird that had lost its chicks to the fox and was crying had been given to a sweet, shy, adorable little girl. We were all in a semicircle, and it was her turn to act like she was crying. She couldn't do it. I didn't blame her. Clearly, she wasn't born to act. Her inability produced an utmost vexation in me. I wanted to scream, I can do it. Give that role to me and stop torturing her. Modesty was now my middle name, and just as I was about to make a case, she began to cry, for real. I was shocked. Tikinala and the producer gathered and smothered her all around. You poor thing, come here, they said. We didn't want you to cry for real. Don't you want to be the mother bird? No, she doesn't. Do you want us to give the role to someone else? Yes, she does. She wiped away her tears elegantly, raised her goo-goo wet green eyes, and shook her head. She shook her head. I didn't get to be the mother bird. No, a weeping, helpless bird simply did not suit my character. I was given a more impressive role. I was the bride-to-be who, after being married off, sang a duet with her husband, making him look like an incapable fool. Duel gites, tetagaes, tehoinaina, hoinaina, goti kapel, gites, tehoinaina, hoinaina. I sang that he didn't even know how to tie his belt, and he in response sang that I didn't even know how to sew. At the end of the act, we managed to reconcile, dance together, and give the impression of a happily ever after. My performances were recorded, and this was the time when I became aware of the camera and the video camera. This was the time when I became aware of memories, the ones I wanted to remember forever, and the ones I wanted to forget. Thank you.
Our next mentor is Ariel Djoulakian. Ariel is the author of The Prospectors and The Office of Mercy, a Fulbright recipient and award-winning writer. Her work has appeared in Tin House, Glimmer Train, and more. She teaches creative writing at Georgetown University and lives near Washington, D.C. with her family. Ariel?
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with everyone. And it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Lena, Dakessian, and Halteh today. During our meetings, I saw Lena accrue pages of prose characterized by depth, emotional complexity, and a prose style that is as poetic as it is deliciously precise. Lena writes with intensity, and in the novel she will read from, we are introduced to the unforgettable character Norayr, a talented and enigmatic ballet dancer. In the mythic setting of the dance studios and the opera house in Yerevan, we get a taste of how the adrenaline-fueled highs of performance will collide with the painful milestones in Norayr's personal life. What I find so striking about this novel is Lena's skill in moving us through time and place and drawing connections between seemingly disparate moments across the globe. The vision is unflinching and balances the beauty of ballet with the harsh political upheavals of the Soviet era, a pairing that is nothing short of remarkable. And I looked forward to every single one of our meetings, both because I was excited to see how the story would unfold and because I love discussing the arts with Lena, who is an accomplished dancer, visual artist, journalist, and also important, a mother of three. So I look forward again into stepping into this world, and I eagerly await the day when this novel in progress will be a published book in our hands.
Hello, everyone. Ariel, that was so moving. Thank you. This whole experience has been such an honor, and I'm excited to read this piece. Noor raced down the stairs to the underground metro, her tear-stained face discernible even in darkness. Fluid black lines trickled down to her jawline as the roar of an oncoming train quickened her pace. Left unfastened, her delicate overcoat flung open as she rushed towards the platform, colliding with a gust of hot air that lay pressurized beneath the city streets. The center of the platform was illuminated by the reflections of nearly a dozen chandeliers that released blinding clusters of light from staggered cylinders of metal. She winced in pain. The blisters along her toes and ankles were close to rupturing, made more raw by the fact that she'd done little to soothe and rebandage her feet before plunging them into street shoes and sprinting across Opera Square. Now standing on the platform, studying the advertisements plastered over the wall tiles, Noor knew it may have been her last night performing in Yerevan. A taxi had dropped her off at the east end of the square that morning. She'd arrived far before her call time and rushed directly to her dressing room, spending the day in avoidance. A bouquet of fire engine red roses, gifted to her at curtain call the previous evening, had been left in their wrapping on the table. She sat for hours, haloed by oversized vanity bulbs and enclosed between parallel mirrors, her reflection receding to infinity. She pulled out the few sheets of paper and pen she tucked in her bag and began writing. The ink blotted, new page. She maintained control as her thoughts poured forth page after wistful page. Noor Alexanyan, stage right, the static intercom sounded through to her room. Noor stuffed the pages in an envelope, scribbled the name of its intended recipient on the back, and licked the seal. She quickly relaced her shoes, dusted her cheekbones with setting powder, and hurried down the backstage corridor. The faint murmur of applause grew audible as she placed her hands on the cold metal bar and pushed against the weight of the door. It was the last show of the season. The Spendiarian Opera House was filled to its gallery with an assemblage waiting to see her perform the role of Phrygia opposite Roman Vartanian in Aram Khachatourian's Spartacus. She watched as Roman trailed off into the tent sets, readying himself for their adagio. Ready? The stage manager asked. She nodded. Seconds left. Noor felt the blood rush to her head, leaving the remainder of her body chilled and weightless. She felt most alive in that kinetic moment, right before musical cue and cadence drew her limbs into a familiar space where the air was thin and the mixing of adrenaline and euphoria drove her into the farthest depths of performance art. She emerged from the wings, stepping gently into the light. Her long black hair flew loosely behind her like a cape as the reverberations of applause rolled off her ivory skin. Her movements were as sensual as they were delicate, as fierce as they were fawn-like. She performed the solo portion of the adagio scene with such magnificent control, compartmentalizing her real-life anguish to appear now as the enamored lover of Spartacus, a hero fit for the times, the embodiment of Soviet might and morality. Roman's reemergence from the tent was met with more applause. It began. They worked in tandem, mesmerizing the audience with their contrived portrayal of intimacy. They hit every choreographic mark, every acrobatic leap. The score intensified as she ran towards Roman, who suspended her body high up above him in a remarkable one-handed lift before swirling her down into a dramatic final embrace. Though deeply committed to her performance, she felt him there, staring down at her from the balcony seats. The lights dimmed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Ariel, thank you as well. Our next mentor is Don McKean. Don Anait McKean is the author of The 100-Year Walk, an Armenian Odyssey, which chronicles her grandfather's survival of genocide. a finalist for the Dayton Literary Peace Prize. She has written for the New York Times, Elle, and more. Previously, she was a staff writer at Salon and Newsday. Dawn, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me to be part of this incredible program this summer. I would like to introduce Amara Posian, a very special person whose humor and intelligence and spirit came into my life this summer. And I've been so lucky, and you will too, when you hear or read her powerful work. In her quest to understand her family's own complicated family history, she's been fearless. And it's been a privilege to work with her and to watch her find her own incredible voice over these past few months. And when otherwise not writing a memoir, she's out saving the world as a climate activist based in Toronto, Canada. And with extensive experience as a facilitator, she has trained and coached thousands of activists around the globe. And Amara currently leads the Canada team at 350.org. Without further ado, it's my immense pleasure and honor to introduce Amara.
Dawn, wow. Just gotta stop crying so I can read. I truly could not have pictured a more perfect mentor for this project and this moment in my life than Dawn. So thank you a million times to IALA, but also Dawn, thank you for saying yes and taking me under your wing. And I really can't tell you how much it means to have someone in my life again who occasionally calls me Baby Wolf. So
long story.
Long story. More context later. I'm still figuring out what this project is, so I chose this excerpt because no matter what this becomes, I think this will be an important part of it. Okay. The small office by the gates of Istanbul's Shishli Armenian cemetery was stifling, thick with the scent of aged, musty paper. On this sunny, sweltering August afternoon, I had found a cemetery worker seated on the shaded steps just inside the entrance. I was a wide-eyed 21-year-old with only a handful of details about my great-grandfather Sudan's grave. I know he died in 1951, sometime before my mom was born in August, I blurted out, hoping it would be enough to start the search. The worker reached for a hefty leather-bound ledger, its cracked cover and worn spine a testament to decades of use. He slowly and thoughtfully thumbed through the yellowed pages, each one bearing the names of a community whose lives had been indelibly altered in 1915. Here, he said at last, his finger tracing a line of faded ink that read, Sudan Shamlian. He noted the grave's location and then led me along the winding paths of the cemetery. As we walked, the silence grew heavier, broken only by the crunch of gravel beneath our feet. Headstones in varying states of care lined the way, some overgrown with plants, others lovingly tended and meticulously clean. We eventually reached a narrow footpath that brought us to my great-grandfather's final resting place. The worker showed me how to find my way back, and then he left me alone with Sudan. The gray headstone was adorned with a cross, a flaming torch, a pen, and an oval plate that had once held his photograph, now empty and cracked. The inscription read, Sudan Shamlian, 1899 to 1951, founder and editor of Marmara Daily newspaper. I stood motionless before the stone, feeling the weight of the years and the chasm between my family's worlds collapse in on themselves. As I knelt by the grave, a sudden drop of rain touched my skin. Startled, I glanced up to see the sky darkening rapidly. Moments later, a torrential downpour began, as if the universe itself was releasing a long-held grief. The rain fell in sheets, drenching the earth and cascading down over the grave. I stood there, letting it wash over me. The boundary between past and present blurred, and within me something shifted. The pain that my mom and grandparents had carried, the rupture from their homeland, their people, and their identity, all for the sake of survival, felt much closer now, woven into the fabric of who I was. Yet as I stood in the rain, I felt a profound release. Here, where my family's history was so deeply rooted in the soil, their pain transformed into something I could understand, something I could carry on my own terms. Thank you.
Thank you, Amara. Very moving. Thank you so much. And Don, thank you. Our next mentor is Jen Siraganian. She's a writer, educator, and former poet laureate of Los Gatos, a Pushcart Prize nominee, and Lucas Arts Fellow. Her work appears in Best New Poets, Agni, and more. She has taught literature and creative writing for 20 years and served as managing director of Litquake. Jen, take it away.
Thank you so much, Shahé. Oh my gosh, this has already been such an incredible reading. I love this, and I'm so grateful to IALA, and I'm especially thankful for connecting me to Elina Arbo, who is marvelous, and you're going to have such a treat right now. So a musician, an artist, and a talented DJ who's currently on a national tour right now. Elina Arbo is a writer who blends her astute attention to sonics with the art of language. Each of her stunning poems contains heart, authenticity, and dives into a range of topics from the examination of her Assyrian and Armenian identity, to generational divides, to definitions of home, to the sensory loveliness and cultural importance of food, which we all love and treasure so much as Armenians. Her pieces are always fresh, super smart, versatile, and full of experimentation and lyrical playfulness. One of my favorite parts of our meetings was her intense hunger to talk about writing. She has this voracious desire to just completely throw herself into opportunities, whether it's discussing submissions or other areas where she could really get into the literary world and exploring craft. And she was always eager and enthused, the deep desire to immerse herself into new forms, whether invented or otherwise. Her poetic prowess impressed me every time we met, and I have no doubt you will observe her writing is a real force. So please welcome Elina.
Thank you so much. Jen is the most incredible mentor I've ever had, and I'm so grateful to have the privilege to have worked with you and to have had your insights and your guidance throughout this process. Like, it has been life-changing. So yeah, greatest honor to work with you. One of the poems that we worked on together is called A Form of Communication No One Understands. I am not only an ancient past, but I am right in front of you. I am not the reliefs or clay tablets at the Brooklyn Museum, or shadow casting statues of the Lamassu at the Met. I'm not the warriors or the mythological gods we poke fun of, make believe, but want to embody. I'm a combination of black tea before mass on a Sunday, rosary beads imprinted in my palms as I breathe down the minutes, with a red face anxiously waiting for the confessional light to turn green, when I should have gone a year ago. And while I don't believe this will absolve me of anything, I still go anyway. I'm a lit candle plus a prayer, a pew, head bow when lost. I am family gatherings and unwanted comments. I am tight-knit tribalisms, suffocating expectations with enough strength to withstand any familial cross-examination. I'm unruly hair, stretch marks, anxious tics, mountainous calluses. I'm chewed up sunflower seeds in the Friday front yard gossip session. Today's topic, our cousin's outfit at the last family function, even though we live by kindness. I'm a dozen pecks on the cheek, ironclad I loves you that translate to affectionate I'll eat your heart. I am the daily news on WhatsApp, Viber, and by words of mouth. I am a combination of generational elegies, one invasion to the next. Iraqi Kingdom, ISIS, United States, Britain. I am the impact of amalgamated crimes by neighbors and strangers. I am Arabic in the kitchen, Turkish on the TV, Farsi on the book. I'm the utters of Aramaic on a daily basis, the alifs, bas, and tas, a full circle to the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, amazing, Alina. And thank you, Jen, for the guidance. Poet Arthur Djoulakian mentored Meline Yemenejian. Arthur will not be joining us today, but he mentored and wrote mentored Meline, and he wrote the following about her. Meline Yemenejian's words captured the tempest of emotions and dance in the delicate balance between hardship and human connection. She looms in the dialectic of sunshine and a voice rising from a storm. In her poem, The Kiss, Melina explores the interplay of vulnerability and resilience, writing, "Tonight, a hurricane rages through ridges in my brain. He cracks jokes with the rain to keep it at bay." Her imagery and cadence draw us into a dance of light and shadow where sunlight and wildflowers are fleeting, yet linger in memory. It's been an honor to witness Melina's dedication and discipline in refining her voice, which resonates with the strength of a young poet willing to face the storm and emerge transformed. Melina has approached the page with vigor and fierce honesty. I'm proud to welcome Melina Yemenedjian.
Hello, everybody. Arthur has managed to will help me pull out poems that I've been wanting to write for a very long time, but haven't had the tools or the readiness yet to pull them forth. So the three that I'm going to read are based on my family. So they're very personal, and it's a little graphic, so please bear with me. Aleppo, 1970. I hid my mouth in my apron when he pressed the glowing ember of his cigarette on our daughter's tongue, forcing her to swallow it like medicine. I took sheets down from the balcony as he played house with our oldest and made her the mommy. I dug the flesh from the eggplant while another child escaped through me like tomato juice through a sieve. I cleaned dinner off the floor because his fist hurled down the plate, shattering salvation. And the second one, when you don't want to fuck. You thought you were going on a trip, interstate signs, and the passing of mountains and aqueducts. From an amusement park, the tangles of roller coasters, then a county fair, the pungent smell of manure and popcorn. Then the back of his car. It was small, and with the smell of smoke. He tasted like an old shoe, then it went too far. With the windows up, no one could hear you scream. He said, I'm hungry. You asked, what would you like to eat? Triumph. The whitest sheets, the cleanest feet, respect to elders, the slimmest shoulders, resist all sin, hold it in, beat the carpet, be the carpet. Be a lady, have a baby, marry young, innocence strong. He is so old, hide the gold, live with his mother, love another. Keep children fed, dread marriage bed, swollen once more, fall to the floor. The floor turns red, better off dead. God has a plan, leave that man. It was not reality. Follow family, seek amnesty, to safe keep daughters from guilty fathers, and see clear in the mirror. Thank you.
Thank you, Melina. Excellent poems. Great choices. Our next mentor is author Aida Zilelian. She will not be joining us today, but she mentored Susanna Khachatryan, and she wrote the following about Susanna. It was a true pleasure working with Susanna this summer. She puts a great deal of thought in the way she approaches brainstorming characters, plot, and her novel overall. As a writer, she has already established a strong and sophisticated voice in her approach to language. I am truly excited to read Susanna's novel, and I'm confident she will complete a beautiful piece of work given her passion and enthusiasm for writing. I wish her the best of luck. Susanna, take it away.
Thank you so much, Shahé. Also, I wish Aida could be here today, but she has been so important for me developmentally with this novel. And I also want to add thank you so much to my amazing good friend and roommate, Elina, who just read her poetry a few minutes ago. She has heard me beat this novel to death so many times, conceptually. So it was actually Ida's idea that I start this novel with a funeral. I'll be reading an excerpt from the chapter 1. And my novel is about the artist-muse relationship. It's also about grief and power and privilege. So yeah, I'll just read from chapter 1. Dark spots began to appear in my vision as I went to great pains to look Henry in the face. The beginning, I suspected, of a migraine. I was feeling unbearably hot at the collar and resisted the urge to pull at the neck of my tie, digging my nails into my palm instead. As if he knew anything. About me, about Theo. There were too many eyes on us. Bile rose up my throat. I was in a losing fight against my bodily functions for maybe the 5th time within the past 24 hours. At my rough estimation, I had about 30 seconds to either get out or lose that fight on Tabitha's Manolo Blahniks. Murmurs materialized as I set off down the aisle, weaving through politicians and socialites. Bursting through the church door, I gasped in huge breaths of November air, rounding the corner. I had to pull myself together. I had to stay, but I already knew with a sinking finality that I wouldn't. Soon they were going to lower Theo into the ground and throw handfuls of dirt over him. He would never touch the light of day again, frozen in time, young and devastating and immaculate for all eternity. I clawed at my tie, trying to loosen the knot, popped open the first button at my throat. Something was inside me, beating at my chest, raring to be let out. Something ugly, something grotesque. Admitting defeat, I threw up with one palm braced against the back wall of the church, narrowly avoiding the leather of my shoes. Finally, I slumped against the stone, wiping away a string of spit and a few stray tears with my sleeve. It took about a minute for my knees to give out too. Spent, I slid down to the patchy grass, a knee to my chest. Theo's father was probably giving the eulogy now. Then Tabitha would read the Poe poem she had shown me about a week before. One of his favorites, A Dream Within a Dream. I thought of the last line. Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream? The green hills around me, the city appearing distant at their horizon, boasted thousands of graves of the most opulent sort. Gothic architecture, angels of stone, marble staircases. Theo would soon be buried with the likes of famed artists, composers, gangsters. Regardless, the idea of the tangible mass of him, of sharp cheekbones and slender fingers, bones and sinew, being reduced to a pretty grave was unfathomable. For you are dust, and to dust you shall return. It was one of Theo's favorite quips. I couldn't shake the feeling that, by dying, he had instead ensured that he would live forever, even if he turned to dust. He had wanted it that way. Hypothetically, it was all perfect. He would have been pleased. The knowledge didn't stop the empty void in me from spreading, gnawing at my ribs. It was growing teeth, and it was hungry. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Susanna. Beautiful work. And thank you, Ida. Now I would like to introduce Tina Demirjian. She is a poet and educator with 30 years of experience in teaching in Los Angeles. She is the founder of the Armenian Dress and Textile Project and has received grants from the Department of Cultural Affairs and others. She is the author of Imprint and co-leads the Artful Conversations workshop at Brand Gallery. Tina?
Hi, Shahé. Thank you so much. It is an honor to be a mentor here with IALA. I was very grateful for the opportunity to spend with my mentee, Aleen Khachatryan. Most of us perhaps don't want to fall into holes, but every time we spoke, we fell in. We fell in and we connected in ways that I don't think either of us expected. So we all thought, Shahen Pamahaslatsav, when he connected us. And, we use the joke about falling into this vortex of the earth being energy in, energy out. And as writers, I think that's so important. And what Aleen showed me the whole time was her curiosity, her absolute her thoughtfulness in her words and in how she expressed herself. Her playfulness with the words also led her always to be willing. And it was in that willingness to really try different things, to explore, that you will get to recognize that she always in her work finds a way through the door that you don't expect, that surprises you, and that gives you the opportunity to see yourself. So enjoy. Aleen, I look forward to hearing and seeing your work in your new collection.
Hi. Thank you, Tina. The introduction, but also, yeah, just this is a match made in heaven. And Tina, I'm so honored that you spent all that time. Shah, you really knew what you were doing. Fun fact, we have a birthday a day apart. So I also want to say thank you to IALA. I'm very honored. I have never really read work before, so this is the first. I picked this piece because it was the first thing that came through that made me see myself differently as a writer. It's called Theater of War. It's a journey, so just stick with me. Thank you, lovers, for your rejection. It suits me very well. Thank you for the leaving of my own respect and taste. Thank you to my lovers, leaving in such haste. Thank you for your egos and all that was in sight. Standing all alone, I met my highest height, the one you left all broken up, the way you disregard. Seeing now my deepest match, I kept the hidden latch. Understated, underwhelmed, on every gravel patch. The grass it chose to leave, the empty spaces steal. The light was taken in the swift, stolen in the way. I didn't even blink or sigh. I didn't wait for days. I didn't know how deep it ran, the wounded fairy tale of how the beauty that unmasked resulted in betrayal. How green, how precious, naive I found my own reflection be. In mirrored water, ripples falter, speckled on the ground. I did not know how low I lay and just how far behind. Of my own shadow in the dust, I stayed and stayed in mind. For this unfolding in the space of empty I did find, I became the statuesque feeling in my spine. Thank you for the memories, distortions from the veil. Underneath and overhead, the clouds they did prevail. Sparks of fire, brimstone watch, burning to the ground. For this and that and these and those swiftly came to steal. My ammunition did behave just as I command. In my left and in my right, a molding in my hand. I put the pen to paper, bloody ink did land, of words and wounds and wild moons, howling at the sight. For wolves they did their bidding still on freshly life that might, tearing into spirit come, and spirit come it did, how they embodied demons that before had tried to bid. Farewell to all that did come up and all that did come down. Joining growls a symphony of packs including hounds, the masquerade of midnight, the losing and the found, betwixt in night and morning, the in-between so bound. Now hear this call like battle cries, I thank thee and I see with eyes, so clear and crystal from inside, passing over all that tried, to take and grasp and hold and pry, into soul's delicious eye. Ceremony, meditation, lots of presence, lots of patience, didn't even think about, stomp my foot, I didn't pout. It was foretold long ago that you would leave and I would know. I didn't never need to be yours and his, him and these. When I decided to embrace the I, the me, the dissonance, I must have melted down the pain and loved it like it was the same as peace and joy, bewildered toys, when girls will be girls and boys will be boys. Thank you.
Thank you, Aleen and Tina, for the beautiful work. I'm glad it was a great match. Our next mentor is Markar Melkonian. Markar is a nonfiction writer and retired philosophy lecturer from California State University, Northridge. He holds a PhD from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. His books include The Philosophy and Common Sense Reader and Richard Rorty's Politics. His work spans philosophy of death, science, and NGOs in post-Soviet regions. Markar, take it away.
Thank you, Shahé. And thank you for you and IALA for the good work you've done this summer, and thank you for the door you've opened for us. My mentee, I guess you'd call her that, but maybe not, is Hasmik Djoulakian. She's a first-generation child of immigrants from Armenia. She has earned a BA in Gender Studies and Civic Engagement from Syracuse University. She's now a master's student in the Multidisciplinary and Multidepartmental Energy Resources Group at UC Berkeley. Her interests include feminist political ecology, cultural geography, and urban farming and food sovereignty in Armenia and California. These are important topics. As it turns out, I'm very much a student of ecology too, and very interested. I've taught a couple courses in it, and I'm very interested in it. Hasmik is a prodigious reader, and she's a trenchant nonfiction writer whose stories somehow stay sweet through the bitter times and places she takes us. Her work has appeared in Syracuse University's journal Intertext and the Science and Technology Studies journal Catalyst, among other places. And so at that, I yield the floor to Hasmik.
Thank you, Markad. Thank you, Shahé. Thank you, Hofsep. Thank you, IALA, and everyone. And this is just so wonderful. And Markad, just very grateful for the nurturing, warm, and open space that you provided, that we had through our calls over the summer. It was really important not just to be able to work through specifics in my writing with you, but also to talk in this bigger way and philosophically and politically about writing, about how we tell stories that are highly personal, about what responsibility we have with how we tell stories that have weight, that have political weight, have how we put those stories in the world. It was just wonderful and so deeply important to have those open and nurturing conversations with you and to have your support. I'm very grateful. And so I'm going to read an excerpt from a piece that is me being in conversation with a longer piece that's in conversation with my mom and my grandma through time. And it's something that I'm still working on, and that I want to develop into something that is longer eventually. And this summer was very encouraging working with you, Markad. I feel very encouraged to continue. So thank you so much. Okay. My grandma and I unlock the outer door and walk through the narrow passageway into the small courtyard. The outdoor bathroom and shower remind my grandma of the winter nights when she preferred to lie sleepless with a full bladder than to walk down the icy steps into the searing cold. She broke her wrist on those steps one year, she reminds me with tight lips. We meander through the unkempt garden, my grandma scowling and muttering angrily at untrimmed and unmaintained bushes and trees, lamenting about how little my grandfather and uncle have done to maintain the area. Lazy dog, she says. I smile. Anger looks good on her. And I think anger can be healing too when your whole life you've been told to contain, 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 and endure. A river undammed, waters that burst with abandon, bad dreams that have been held in your chest for too long. I think about the many lives this house has lived. I am told it used to be big and grand with a spiral staircase in the center where there is now a courtyard and open sky. Over the years and generations, it was remodeled to consist of separate dwellings so that a great uncle or a grandfather's brother could live there with other relatives in semi-privacy. Generation after generation, remade, neglected, torn down bit by bit. My grandmother, the women who lived in the house before her, could not maintain the house forever, and sometimes, like my grandmother, they left. Before my grandfather returns from his afternoon stroll, which my grandma refers to as his daily promiscuous cavorting, we walk into the garden again to look at the trees. My grandma moves slowly. She has a steely-eyed look. She turns to me and says with absolute determination, I am not leaving until we pick every single one of these cherries. I look around and see cherries dotting several of the trees. There are probably a few hundred of them, juicy red orbs the size of golf balls. Mottled sunlight streams in through the cover of the mingling leaves. My grandma pulls out a plastic bag from her purse and puts it into my hands. Hold that for me. That bastard already ate most of them. He ate all of the yellow ones. Those are the best ones. I'm not going to leave him a single cherry. Her voice rises towards the end. I know she means what she says, and I intend to support her mission fully, because she deserves the sweetness of these cherries, and because I don't think it's about them, not really. My grandma reaches for a cherry, drops it in the bag, and looks up at me, beaming. Then she picks another and another. She continues from tree to tree, looking meticulously for all the cherries within reach. I think the cherries enjoy her defiance. I help her while asking her questions about what the garden was like when she lived there. Her voice gets angrier as she describes the pear trees, apple trees, and mulberry trees that she took care of, which are now gone. Even on the worst days, she says, coming to the garden and watering her trees gave her a small measure of peace. I wonder if she whispered her bad dreams, her secrets that weighed heavy on her heart, to the water she gave the trees. Perhaps the cherries and the soil that made them remember her.
Thank you, Hasmik. That was amazing. Markar, thank you as well. Now I would like to introduce our next mentor, Melina Tumani. Melina is the author of There Was and There Was Not, a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award and Dayton Literary Peace Prize. Her work has appeared in the New York Times, Harper's, and more. She teaches creative nonfiction in Goucher College's low residency MFA program. Melina, take it away.
Thank you. Well, this is a delightful afternoon. I'm really enjoying hearing all of this wonderful work. And I have to say, it was a total pleasure for me to work with Lori Yeriayan Friedman over the summer. When Lori and I first spoke, we discussed whether to focus our time together on her creative nonfiction writing related to her experiences with Armenian identity or to work on something completely different. My first instinct was that we should work on something non-Armenian. I wanted to support her in exploring other parts of her writing life. But then I read a couple of her essays and I did a total 180. Her Armenian story didn't fit into any of the boxes that I'd known, and I found it irresistible. She's Armenian American, yes, and even Armenian American from Los Angeles, but her dad was from Africa, which is to say he was Armenian from Ethiopia. Her great-grandfather was the dentist to Ethiopia's Emperor Haile Selassie. Her grandmother was the goddaughter of the emperor's wife. Her mother was a Palestinian refugee, which is to say that she was an Armenian whose family fled from Ottoman Turkey to Palestine and then to the US with that designation. Lori herself married a Jewish American. But these unusual ingredients of her background don't guarantee interesting writing any more than a bag of groceries can guarantee a good meal. Lori has a unique talent for concise, unsentimental writing that uses humor. She's very, very funny to touch big emotional dynamics. She has an MFA in theater, and a lot of her writing mines themes of performance and the roles we play. There's a stylishness of form that surprises me each time I encounter a new essay. Lori has already published in many literary magazines. Just a few highlights. She has a fascinating essay called A Trifle Olive Complexioned that was published in the journal Mizna in their cinema issue. Her piece, The Emperor's Dentist, was recently nominated for Best of the Net by the journal Atlas and Alice. She has published personal essays in Memoirland and in the LA Times. And her essay, How to Survive a Genocide, published in Exposition Review, is not at all what it sounds like and is awesome and was nominated for a Pushcart Prize. We worked together on a piece that on the surface was about her father's fondness for the film Casablanca, but on a deeper level was about the complexities of assimilation. This essay is newly published by Consequence Forum, and I suggest you look for it. Lori somehow gets all this writing done while also being the vice president for communications at Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon, and along with her husband, raising 2 children who are twins as well as tweens. I hope we'll see more and more of Lori's stylish and incisive work, and it's truly my honor to introduce her today.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay. The whole thing has been a real gift. So I really am forever grateful to IALA and to Melina for that gift. I'm going to read an essay that was published in Phoebe Journal called I Click on a Map of Languages Dead and Dying. I click on a map of languages dead and dying and find my dead and dying language, the one that I don't speak. Everyone knows it. I am the killer, always have been. I am guilty, no trial needed. Murderer though I am, I have made a few runs at resuscitation. In my 30s, I took classes at Los Angeles Community College, where I was older than every other student by at least 15 years. I attended another class full of spouses trying to impress their in-laws. I signed up for another class, and another class, and another class, always learning a little bit more, though not enough to prevent its extinction, not enough to earn a reprieve. These days, I say to my kids, this is how you say bread, hots. This is how you say book, kirk. This is how you say school, tabrots. How do you say school? I say. Tabrots, they say, because they love me and they want me to be happy. The fault isn't theirs. I protect the real killers, always did. I never called them out, my parents, when the shriveled old country folks would grip my wrist with their bony fingers and wag another in my face, give me a tongue lashing, using a word that still lives on, that will never die. Amot, 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 shame, shame, shame. The real killers are the real killers, of course, always will be, the ones that did the actual killing, a convenient side effect being that the language died too, a genocide of one ethnic group to ensure the purity of another, a tale as old as time. It would have been better to have stayed in our villages where we had been for thousands of years. We could have lived and loved and died, feasted and worshipped and shushbarred in the same place for 1,000 more. But that's not what happened. We were driven out, displaced, survived. Those decisions were made for us. My parents could have chosen a different path to live and raise me in a diasporan community, but they saw the writing on the wall, what was needed to ensure their daughter's success, the importance of being perceived as white in America and erasing all traces of foreignness in pursuit of belonging. I come from people who were good at seeing the writing on the wall, or I wouldn't be here. You can't blame the survivors and their descendants for being good at surviving, can you? I dream sometime of saviorhood, of being Dr. Frankenstein, toiling away in the basement until I scream to the heavens a triumphant, "It's alive!" I think of the story's original creator, a teenage Mary Shelley on vacation with her stepsister and a couple of handsome, arrogant men in a mansion during an ashy gray season. They challenged each other to write ghost stories. Hers ends with Dr. Frankenstein chasing his monster through the Arctic, just as I chased this dead and dying language. She wrote about men trying to resurrect the dead, playing God. Clever young Mary understood the consequences of trying to change nature. The choice, accept the inevitability of death, or spend your life chasing a monster endlessly through the icy tundra. A poster of the alphabet, all 36 of its curvy letters, hangs on my wall. It is beautifully framed with double matting. I even bought a bigger poster when I visited the homeland 20 years ago. It's still rolled up and in a tube. I promised to frame that one too. The letters forever preserved under glass, never to fade. The gorgeous swirls, printed in deep Middle Ages looking colors, inky and fresh always. I will remember him, the alphabet's inventor, and his role in preventing our extinction. The language and the church were the only reasons we didn't perish altogether. I know that. Don't you think I know that? I wrote this essay. I got it published. Am I exonerated? Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you so much. And Melina, thank you for mentoring. Now, I would like to introduce Jennifer Manukyan, the next mentor. Jennifer Manukyan is a UC President's postdoctoral fellow at UC Irvine. She earned her PhD in 2023 from UCLA's Department of Near East Languages and Cultures Her research explores Ottoman Armenian language practices in the 18th and 19th centuries. She is also translating Yerban Odian's memoir, 12 Years Away from Constantinople, into English. Jennifer, take it away.
Thank you, Shahé. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to introduce my mentee, Norayr Manvelian. So Norayr is a literary translator from Eastern Armenian, and he received his BA in English and Communications from the American University of Armenia, AUA. He is currently a student in the Graduate Certificate in Translation program at AUA, studying under the mentorship of someone who a lot of us know, Shushanik. This summer, he worked on a translation of an autobiographical text by the writer Levon Khachoyan. This text, called On the Iron Roads of Europe, explored Khachoyan's impressions of Europe while on a speaking tour in the early 2000s. Today, Norayr will be reading us an excerpt from his English translation.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, and thank you for this beautiful journey we had together. It was a great pleasure to work with you. Just a small thing, I have graduated the program. I got the diploma, everything, so I'm all good. I'm honored to be here. It was really nice to listen to these beautiful pieces, both prose and poetry. And I'll try to make it as concise as possible, as I'm the 10th participant, if I'm not mistaken. So let's get started. Here is the earth, swollen in the eternal peace of the universe, like a round belly. Its navel, the biblical Transcaucasia shakes, writes, salt is constantly sprinkled on that navel's open wound. The bubbling blood abundantly moistening the surface of the dry soil has become an animalistic fear of extermination for the inhabitants of the Caucasus. Here, now the wars and the accidents are not like the ones when the Argonauts came to seize the Golden Fleece. If a soldier happened to be wounded by an arrow or a sword, an angel flying by would see him by chance, descend from heaven, and by applying a leaf or herbs or a feather to the wound, would illuminate the light of salvation. The preserved Armenian legends have it that when a wounded warrior chewed a pinch of his native land soil, turning it into a mortar inside his mouth, and put it on the cut, the bleeding would stop. The death would leave the wound. The biblical world favored the living of the human. The wars in Transcaucasia are different now. The angels passing through the blue, glittering sky here can no longer descend to the burning ground. Even if they do, they helplessly die along with the soldiers. As an eyewitness of that war, I myself know and have heard many times the voice of God, both from behind and from the front, how he was calling his mountain, his lake, his city, his apple orchard, his human, his lost angel, that was wiped off from the face of the earth in a nocturnal instant. From the depths of this nightmare, loneliness, and chaos, the leaders of every state and tribe play their own music, throw peoples into fires, and make them dance to the tune of their own invention. The human mind, thus lost, blind, wandering, surrendered for centuries to the laws of the punctual game of the red-faced Satan, returns again and again, and by its return comes back and stands on its beginning again. The same wars and the same peace happening for centuries. This human cannot save himself from this repetition, cannot be saved from himself. Transcaucasia, due to its geographical location, for millennia has been flitting between east and west like a moth to a torchlight. And it is because of this circumstance that the Transcaucasian unanimity was not created. It still is not. Even the native land, chewed in the mouth, turned into mortar and applied to the wound, can no longer save us from these wars. Now, the task of the writer, in order to keep the structure of the homeland intact, will not be to educate soldiers by writing heroic novels in an emotional style, but to consider the destruction of one nation, one state, as the annihilation of the planet. Literature is an opportunity to be able to hate war, regardless of which countries, and which superpowers' war it is. The path to the salvation of today's world, of this human, passes through the country where its inhabitants build houses, where they support their artists, factories, wives, children, where banks multiply, virtue flourishes, where the wheat fields ripple under the blazing sun, the fish leap with joy in the lakes. From abundance, the dog is on the roof under the haystack, rejoiced. The cat is on the windowsill with his back puffed up. When the children study with joy, young ladies are delighted. The fire of the gas stove does not go out, and the blessing of life incessantly pours out. Thank you.
Thank you, Norayr, and thank you, Jennifer. As you heard, the mentorship program also supports the translation of works by Armenian writers into English. If you're a translator, we encourage you to apply to the program next year. Once again, thank you to our generous mentors, and a heartfelt thank you to the mentees for their beautiful work. Our next segment highlights two remarkable fellows of the mentorship program, Nayiri Baboudjian, Bouchakjian, and Perla Kantarjian, who join us from Beirut, Lebanon. Both writers are navigating unimaginable political unrest in their homeland. We have invited them to share their stories and unburden their pain within this supportive community of Armenian writers. Their reflections offer a powerful reminder of the role storytelling plays in fostering connections and resilience during times of crisis. Nayiri and then Perla.
Thank you very much, Shahé. Hello, everyone. Thank you for this space and for this opportunity. I actually feel like I'm back at home because I also was part of this mentorship program 4 years ago. So it feels great to be back. I'm going to be reading to you tonight something I wrote at the beginning of this war, genocide. So here it goes. Shahé, can you hear me well? Just
yes,
before I proceed. Okay.
Yes.
So it's entitled Friday, September 27, 2024, Teaching in the Times of Genocide. We have already lost one of our students. No, we have not lost him. He was killed. Murdered, yes, murdered. No reason. He was an honors student. Oh, I'm using the past tense. So now I will resort to the present tense. Maybe when we change the language, we change our reality. Maybe when we go back to university, he will show up in Tina's class again. This is just a nightmare. And when we wake up in the morning, Hamad will be alive again. The university has organized a support session facilitated by the psychology department. It is to provide us with practical strategies to manage our emotions during such horrible times. They mean times of genocide. I want to attend. I even urge my husband to attend. We are cooking in the background, but the session is ongoing. 3 wonderful psychologists are sharing insight and tips, and these are women who are actually living through the war, just like us. As fate would have it, in the middle of the session, I hear loud booms, unbelievable moments reminiscent of August 4th. Not 1, not 2, maybe 8. Stop counting. They will stop. Our building shakes violently as I feel my arrhythmia dance like that of the erratic bombs. I run down the corridor and into the bathroom, disregarding my knee pain. I cry out to my husband. He runs into the bathroom and holds me. Bella and Lulu, our dogs, follow us and cry. Bella, our superhero guard dog, cries. We both cry. Lulu cannot hear well, but she cries as well, in solidarity. It's the impact, it's the sadness, it's the empathy, it's the compassion. Dogs have it. After 10 or 15 minutes, when I'm a bit more composed, I reopen my laptop and realize that one of the speakers also had to step away. She's back to talk to us about what to do when there's a strike, how not to panic, how to regain composure, how to keep going despite the storms. My heart goes out to her. I want to hold her hand and tell her that I'm scared too, beyond fear. Bury resilience, normalize fear. How can you not be scared of those visitors in the sky, the uninvited ones? Since the beginning of this war, I hear voices. I hear noise. I hear airplanes all the time, drones. Maybe they are not there. I hear them. I hear them in my mind. I've internalized these noises, the buzzes, the dishwasher, the washing machine, the fridge, too many machines working. Back in the good old days when we had guests who would overstay their welcome, my mom used to tell us jokingly to stick a needle onto the broomstick. It would make them leave. Our broomsticks are now full of needles. Thank you.
Thank you, Nayiri, so much. Very moving. Now, Perla, if you don't mind.
Hi, everyone. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be here. 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years or maybe a bit more, I sat where you are and it changed everything. It's been a pleasure listening to all the magic you guys have concocted, and I cannot wait to see you all blossom. I'm gonna share something small. I wrote this when the war began 2 weeks ago, I think, because after it began and it actually became a tangible reality, survival kind of swallowed the words. So yeah, here goes. War, day 4. Men in suits on TV. 21 days of peace, they say. We are trying our best to negotiate a temporary pause. No one buys it. Already the headlines cripple our belief. Is Lebanon Gaza 2.0? Massacre and Bekaa, limbs and rubble, unrecovered hearts. Thousands had to leave their homes behind, millions. Their sweet pets, the mugs they got for autumn, their favorite sweaters, they're dead. Over 2,000 living, breathing bodies killed by Israeli strikes in the south. Whole families wiped off in only 3 days. Can you even fathom these numbers? Her, look at her smile. Maya was a bride, wedding in 2 weeks. Instead, her fiancé buried her, her sisters, her parents, yesterday, all of them, carried their coffins like they were God's very light. What does panel discussion on Middle Eastern geopolitics even mean if it can't stop one child from dying? Everything sounds like a bomb. You watch the news so much, it becomes you. Your whole life, you've been taught to fear this sky, to think every loud sound is there to kill you. These are the stories you grew up listening to. And look how they're here again. This is happening now. Thank you.
Thank you, Perla, and thank you, Nayiri, for the moving words about Beirut and what's happening there. Again, we are so glad that you're with us, and we're here for you as a community. Now I would like to introduce, I'm pleased to introduce Elina Semerjian, a passionate and tireless advocate who has overseen the Young Armenian Poets Awards, YAPA, in honor of Tamar Asadourian for the past 4 years. Aleen is a poet, musician, and an educator, but above all, he is a friend. Aleen, take it away.
Thank you, Shahé. I'm going to try to make the almost impossible transition here from those really powerful words. Thank you for being here, Perla and Nayiri, and everybody. It's just a testament to our commitment to the work we do, right? The invention, all the mentors here, and the 4 writers, the young writers I'm going to introduce here. Just a couple of quick thanks to Shahé for being such a wonderful and gracious host. Hostep, who is doing the extraordinary work of piecing together all this. So thank you for that. And of course, you know, Olivia and everyone at IALA who just, you know, who created space for all this, and particularly for the work I'm passionate about, which is our young Armenian writers, the youngest among us. And I'm just really, really proud to introduce them. A few more thanks, Gregory, Djoulakian, Armina, excuse me, Iknadosian, and Rafi. Wartanian, I don't know if they're here, but thank you for them for being such terrific judges. If you know their work, you know how great they are as writers, and they brought that wisdom to the process. You know, every year we look for craft, imagination, and perhaps all a unique voice ready to enter the Armenian literary world and beyond. And that's sort of the you know, our mission with the Young Armenian Poets Awards, and this year is no exception. I do also want to thank everyone who got the call for work out there. I think it's really important to find these writers all over the world. This year they're from the States, but we've had writers that were recognized in all parts of the world. So please continue that as we move into our 5th year next year. That's so essential, because they're you know, the young Armenian voices are everywhere, and they're ready to contribute. And you could see it, you know, they're the most recent creation of the Norayr magazine by last year. Vlad was a winner, and I think Madeline is also part of Norayr as well. Vlad and they started a literary journal, which is so wonderful. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who put the call out as well. And also to the Asadourian family. You know, the Young Armenian Poets are named going forward in their honor, and we thank them for their support so much. And Tamar was a terrific artist who embodied all that we value. And you know, her book is also given to as part of the awards that we give to our to all the winners and the honorable mention this year. So thank you for that. I'm going to actually introduce Sam Akizian, who is Tamar's cousin. Tamar, as I said, is the person for whom the Young Armenian Poets are named in honor of. So I just want to introduce Sam Akizian for a few words, and we thank him for his support, and the entire family as well. Sam, you want to take a moment?
Thank you, Alan. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the writers who have shared their inspirational and truly touching works with us thus far. First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate all of the forthcoming young and very talented writers who are truly worthy of the acclaim that they're receiving. I've been asked to say a few words about Tamar, and it's actually very difficult to come up with those words. Tamar was truly a woman for all seasons. She was an acclaimed artist, a celebrated pianist, a poet, and a thinker. And most importantly, her writing reflected all of these things. As an artist, she saw the color and texture of words. As a musician, she noted the lyrical cohesion of sentences. And as a thinker, she explored the depths of the human condition. If she was here today, she would have felt right at home with all of you, truly her peers. And she would have felt the pride which I share in your individual and unique explorations. Once again, congratulations to all of you, and congratulations to this remarkable organization and all of its members. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Really beautifully put. And before we make the transition into hearing from the four winners, or three winners and one honorable mention. I just want to also thank and note that HPEM, which is the sort of cultural arts arm of Hamasikayan, has been our partner for the last 4 years. The HPEM program manager, Shahé Mankerian, also mentioned a few words. Shahén is not here today, but I just want to thank HPEM and just read Shahén's words here for our occasion, for our event tonight. And you can find the winners, the winning works, and other information on those winners, including some commentary by our judges, on the HPEM site, as well as the IALA, ArmenianLiterary.org site. Shahén says, I would like to thank IALA's trust in HPEM and the continued spirit of collaboration between the two organizations. The young poets, as well as the IALA community as a whole, are always more than welcome to showcase their work on HPEM by writing to admin@hpem.com. And thank you once again, and all the best. And it is really, really important to have these authentic audiences in partnership so our voices can grow. And I really value that in terms of as an educator and as a person. And so thank you, HPEM. And let's hear from our young Armenian poet winners this year. I'm going to ask them to read their poems. And I think the best way to do this is do the three winners in alphabetical by last name, and then we will get our honorable mention. So the first winner I'd like to introduce is Madeline Berberian Hutchinson. And Madeline's poem for Mariam was one of the three winners. And indeed, this poem stood out to the judges, and we had some terrific conversation about it. Armine says that his just real depth and lyrical prowess, and the poem cries for mother, cries for the martyrs, cries for the lost poppy fields and the lost futures of millions. Just reading a brief excerpt from the introduction, but let's give a warm welcome to one of our winners, Madeline Berberian Hutchinson.
Thank you. Okay, this is my poem for Maria. We could have sliced right through the mountains, meander through its fissure to save the delicacy of our daughters. But Ararat is our spine, our marrow runs warm against its altitude. Our songs echo in between the mulberry trees. They tell us our songs are always despair, but our history is measured in wavering breaths of suffering. You would not notice us if we died like we were supposed to. I must be martyred to be remembered. This is our consequence for Papa's sweat lining the horizon and Hagop's little hands tracing our family name in the dirt and Anush's wrinkled umbilical cord hurting our cattle. We are a lardless people. We are an emaciated, razor-thin God, but we remain limitless. We were born in maybe October. My great-granddaughter will place chocolates next to my candle on the second or third Sunday, but we all die in the early shadows of April. Mother, Mariam, mother, we are meant to mourn. You are birthed from a mass grave. Save us, mother, Mariam, mother. Save us in the last expanses of poppy fields. I fear they will not see June. I cannot feel March or Malatia on my split lips anymore. Beyond meeting and parting, there exists a place, a valley, where we are as round-bellied as the sun. But I knew my great-grandmother as well as my son will know me. They will turn me inside out and fold our land inwards on itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. The judges really were blown away by that last line in particular. Thank you so much. Our next writer, our next winner, I hope I'm pronouncing your first name correctly. I believe it's Lena Karapetyan. And if it's Lena, please let me know. And I apologize. I Was Raised by Survivors is the title of the winning poem. And Judge Gregory Djoulakian wrote a few words on that and said, I love the tone of this poem, how it joyously enumerates aspects of Armenian culture, food, dancing, love of family, the aromas of the kitchen, the thick coffee, and then goes on how to talk about the other sort of darker and complex aspects of the poem. It establishes, even as early as its title, that we are survivors of genocidal and ethnic violence, which makes the rejoicing that the poem so aptly describes even more hard-won and resolute. Our love of life enduring in spite of everything that has tried to diminish it. So please welcome Lena Karapetyan.
Thank you so much. And you did say my name right. Here's my poem, I Was Raised by Survivors. I was raised by sarma eating, Armenian-style cooking, lahmacun so good you want to sit back and relax while eating, shad hamove shnorhagalem kind of deers. Some curly-haired, big-eyed, you don't need to shave your arms, they're beautiful sort of survivors. Some loud-spoken, flag-waving, Armenian-speaking, slipper-wearing, always open for a free hug, come here hokis and bring it in type of lovers. Some surge-sipping, mitten and apron wearing, almost snuffed out, fought back, won but just barely, better luck next time type of survivors. Some pinky-linking, Armenian dancing, arms waving, I'll skip up and down with heels on kind of dancers. Some good-smelling, sarma eating, baklava loving, warm food waiting, world dominating, stand back, I'm molding fighters. I was raised by survivors. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. Rich, playful, and yes, complex. Thank you. Our next winner is Hasmik Tumasian with a lovely title. The poem is called Home is a Peanut Butter and Jelly Sandwich on Lavash Bread. And I just can't wait to hear her read this. And just wanted to say this one was introduced by Rafi Watanyan, and just an introductory statement here. The poet behind Home is a Peanut Butter and Jelly Sandwich on Lavash Bread utilizes the PB&J as a lens into an identity shaped by Armenian and American influences, and goes into all the lovely juxtapositions in the poem. And you can read that introduction online. Please welcome Hasmik Tumasian.
Thank you so much. This is my poem. Home is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on lavash bread. Sweet like chocolate chip cookies and pomegranate seeds and hugs from jet-lagged relatives who just got off 14-hour flights. Salty, crunchy, because my mom is convinced it's healthier, seeping from either side of the makeshift roll. My dadik stacks lavash on top of itself and cuts it into neat slices every time. I rip off scraps whenever I need them, with all the rugged individualism of the American dream, a kind of free-spiritedness that might have been appreciated at Boston Harbor, not so much at the table. My PB&J is made on lavash speckled with tonier spots because white bread feels wrong. My jelly is actually apricot preserve because real jelly doesn't feel real. Sweet like the Highlands, sweet like John, sweet like gas station donuts, sweet like the green light at the end of Daisy's dock. The salt stings lovingly, an innocent laugh at my unrolled R's. That distinctly Armenian tyranny, that distinctly American apathy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hasmik. In fact, I have here in my notes, I forgot to mention it. If you don't know, the prompt asked our submitters to contemplate this notion of home, which I think is has a lot of immediacy and resonance for Armenians and others around the world right now. So I think it's you know, the winners did such a terrific job. In fact, and we had such great submissions. We actually wanted to offer an honorable mention to Ani Kajian, who wrote a wonderful poem as well called Tiptoes. And I wrote a brief introductory statement about this. And I was sort of contemplating how home in this poem is a place that can offer, you know, protection, but it's kind of also a moving target. And, you know, it is also intrinsically connected to the natural world in this poem for me, as I understood it. And the natural world seems almost aware of pain as well, of our pain. So I was particularly impressed by, Ani's terrific poem called Tiptoes, and I'm really excited for her to read this now. This is our honorable mention. Please give her a round of applause as well, or any way that you do the applause. Thanks.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be invited here by such a beautiful organization that supports the creativity of our people. So thank you so much. It's such an honor. This is Tiptoes. Grandmother's hands map to the sweetest loquat. Protect my face from selfish, stray hairs slicked back by the dampness of her palms, gently saturated with the essence of strawberries she sliced, knife facing her, selfless as the motherland. Her rooftop in Stura remembers her grace. Grape stems remain scattered where she last read, under her willow tree, on its tiptoes to shade her. Her rooftop in California is watched over by her olive tree, who shelters my reading steps and watermelon rinds. We belong where the trees stand on their toes for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you to our three winners and our honorable mention. Truly beautiful pieces, well crafted, and your imagination just, shines through. We urge you to keep writing, keep working through these ideas, making meaning through language. And of course, staying with IALA, we've had young Armenian poets become mentees in the future, and we're hoping to continue to create space for the youngest among us and doing such terrific work. So thank you so much. And thank you for the Asadourian family as well. And Shahé, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Once again, thank you to Aleen and all the young poets for their wonderful words. As we close today's showcase, I want to thank all our mentees, mentors, and YAPA participants for sharing their incredible work with us. If you're inspired by what you've seen and are interested in joining the mentorship program next year, keep an eye on our website for application updates. We also encourage young writers to submit their work to the Young Armenian Poets Award held in honor of Tamar Asadourian. To uplift the next generation of Armenian writers and help us continue offering programs like these, please consider supporting IALA by donating any amount at our website. Your generosity allows us to nurture emerging talent and build a vibrant literary future. Finally, I like to thank Olivia Khatranjian, the founder and president of IALA, for her unrelenting guidance in shaping these wonderful programs. I am also grateful to our executive director, Shahé Mankerian, who tirelessly works behind the scenes to ensure everything runs smoothly. Special thanks to my colleague, Aleen Semerjian, for nurturing and overseeing the Young Armenian Poets Awards. Without their dedication, these programs could not thrive. Thank you all for being here today. Your presence and support means the world to us. Share party.